Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to this week's edition of Monday Motivation. So if you are tuning into this and have never ever seen one of these Monday motivations before, where have you been? My name's Jenny Kovacs, and this week we are going to be covering the topic of overwhelm. So Monday motivations were a little something that actually started off as an email, and I'm just going to take my light away. I hope that doesn't make everything too dim. Yes, there we go. Monday motivation really started off as something that was just sent around by email to give people a little pep to their Monday, their morning, even their week. And then in 2010, when I started this business, I realised that more of us spent Sunday night dreading Monday mornings. Maybe we had a situation going on. Maybe we had something that wasn't working out in the way that we wanted to. And I wanted to put a stop to this. So if you are like the people who have hopped on already and are watching this live and already said hello, then please type in the box and say hi. And if you're watching this on the replay, that's cool too. So starting off with Faye. Faye says, "Morning, Jenny." I say morning, Faye. We've got Ivona saying, "Morning all." We've got France Lee saying, "Morning, Jenny." Morning, Faye. Morning, Ivona. We've got Ian saying, "Hey up, good morning." And we've got Alan. So already, you guys are already pumped for your Monday. You're already looking at how you can motivate your Monday, your morning, your week. So you might notice I'm in a different setting. I'm actually in not so sunny Stoke-on-Trent, in the middle of the UK, for those of you who are watching either from New Zealand and it's your Monday afternoon, or it's late Sunday night in America. So let's crack on with the subject for this week, which is like getting out of overwhelm. Let me just switch this light off so I don't waste power or energy. So here's the thing. In the last few weeks, in the last few months, and even, when I'm speaking to corporations, not just individuals who are running businesses, but also corporations, one of the common themes is this kind of like too much to do, not enough time. And one of the things that doesn't sit well with me is even like, when I work with people close up and personal one-to-one, I could be working with them on visibility and helping them to stand out, or really set off a new business, or throw in some energy or life back into an existing business, which they've decided no more hobby time to get out there. And one of the things that came up recently with one particular person was that they just had so much to do. And it's interesting because this comes at a time as I am actually putting together a visibility journal. And the reason I'm putting together the visibility journal isn't, it's a commercial decision, of course, but that's not the main driving force. The main driving force that I'm finding are that, I have clients who have calls with me and they don't have the time to come to the call. It's only 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. And they're not finding the time to be able to fit that into their week. We have 24 hours a day, just like everybody else. And when I hear that, it concerns me, because it means that we are inadvertently putting in energy or time to something else, which is clearly important to us. For some of us, we're running businesses, we've got families, we have other kind of commitments that we run alongside our business. But one of the things that we aren't so great at doing as people that help people, generally speaking, we either help other people, whether it's in business or in life, we tend to not be so great at putting time, care, attention or focus on ourselves. And this often ends up in a feeling of overwhelm. So I thought I would share a few snippets of information, a few ideas, a few insights into getting out of overwhelm, and some things to look out for. Faye says, "Fingers crossed, get to see you on Wednesday. I hope you've booked your ticket, Faye." So if you're in the Manchester area, what Faye's alluding to is that there is a a networking event that's happening. If you want more information, just scroll down the page and you'll see information on that. So it's happening on Wednesday night. You do need to get a ticket. It's only a tenner. So and it's not being run by me, but it's being run by an organisation that I'm really, really fond of. I'm going to give them a shout out. That's the AWTE, which is the Association of Women Travel Executives. So they are a really awesome organisation, very forward thinking, really into personally developing their members to help with many things, including overwhelm. So here are a few things to look out for. So the first thing to do is to notice when you're on the crescendo of overwhelm. What do I mean by that? Well, quite often, as we're heading towards overwhelm, we will often start to push through. That is like the surest kind of sign that we are heading to overwhelm. So if you find that your working day consists of you having to push through, or even thinking about pushing through, extending your hours, doing more, unless you're doing something or working on a specific project like a launch, which sometimes, you know, it happens. We need to give a little bit more time and care and attention because we're about to launch something off. If you're finding that your business as usual means that your hours are becoming very extended, that you're staying up very late at night, working till late in the evenings, then it's a sure sign that you're going into overwhelm. And I remember the first time I noticed this in myself, like really noticed it in myself, other than having just a lot to do, was, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think, must have been about 2007, about halfway through 2006, 2007, where, you know, I worked as a very senior manager in the financial services industry. I was a national training manager at the time, and you know, I basically covered England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. I had staff that were over the country. So as well as looking after those staff, I would be responsible for the learning and development of in-house of the staff, of the sales and training teams, the sales and marketing department, but also very responsible for the schedule of over 14,000 brokers that were on the database. So at that point, I mean, and this is a job I love, so and was a job I loved, I should say. So this was, you know, this was like for me, just really great fun. I would work like lots of hours, and when I count back, my average week would be like 85 hours a week. I would work late, I would get up early, you know, I would work at weekends, and because I loved it, it kind of masked the fact that I was heading into what could have been like really bad overwhelm and actually burnout. However, for some unknown reason, I managed to avoid that. And when I reflected back on what that unknown reason was, it was the recognition that I was heading into that. So how many of you resonate with the whole, you know, staying up extra late, working a bit later, you know, trying to fit everything in around family? If you do, just give me a thumbs up or a love heart, just so that I know that this is something that I can, you know, continue to give tips and hints on. And while you do that, I'm just going to read Faye's comment. Faye said, it's overwhelming protecting your best interest also. Where do you compromise and where do you... Oh, gosh, it's got that thing again. Faye, it's not letting me see all of your comment, even though I tap on the see more thing. Where do you compromise and where do you stand your ground? I don't know, I'm going to guess. What I'm going to do, I'm going to be really sneaky and get my other device out and have a look to see if I can read that comment. So let me continue with the end of this particular thing to notice, and then I'll also see if I can just have a look at the comment that you've put on there too. Because I'm very... Oh, stand firm. Yes, it's overwhelming protecting your best interest also. So where do you compromise and where do you stand firm? Okay, I'm going to come back to that. Great question, Faye. So here's the first thing. Notice that you're going into overwhelm. Because here's what I realised. A lot of the stuff that I was still stuffing into my day actually didn't need to be done. The reason why we get into this position is because we set our our kind of like our bar so high, we set a level for ourselves of getting stuff done. Some call it perfectionism, and sometimes I think it's more than that. It's just that we have high standards for ourselves. We have high standards of others, and we have high standards for ourselves. So we set the bar so high, but when it comes to actually implementing or, actually getting this stuff done, taking action, accountability for it, what we find is that it's like a lot of things. If you ask any kind of average person who runs a business, like, what are you going to get done today, or what are you going to get done this week, or what are you going to do this month, they will list off a whole ream of things. And, I found myself thinking, whoa, that's a lot of stuff to do. What are you going to do this week? And people say, I'm going to get my website done. I'm going to, reach out to 10 people, and I'm going to finish off writing content for the week. When you think about this, getting your website done isn't just getting your website done. It's writing the copy, it's getting it checked, it's being able to sit with it, it's sending it over to someone, it's waiting and depending on them coming back and saying that it's okay, not okay, it's amendments, it's adding photos, it's getting the photos taken, it's finding the photos. There's so many moving parts. So it's always worth just taking a check of, first of all, where am I now? Am I finding that I'm kind of getting into this space of feeling like, gosh, there's so much to do, not enough time? Because when you take a good and honest inventory of that, you'll find that there are things that are necessary or important, but not essential. So that's the first thing to really pay attention to. What needs to be done? What is time critical? What is essential and what isn't? Because a lot of the time when we're looking at putting content out there, or when we're looking at sharing something with the world, it's only us that knows that that's what we want to do. For something that's time critical, like Monday Motivation, it's going to happen every Monday apart from a bank holiday here in the UK. So I know that has to happen. So I'll always ensure that I have a collection of subjects to speak about before the event. Otherwise I'd come up on here and I'd be a bit like, I don't know what to do. But more importantly, I wouldn't feel great within myself if I knew that I was coming up on camera, excuse the shakes, I am holding the phone today, if I was, coming and putting myself under the pressure of, oh my gosh, like, I'm not ready, I don't know what to do. And often overwhelm, the reason why it can feel so kind of shonky is the internal pressure that we have on ourselves and we inadvertently put on ourselves too. So notice when you're going into overwhelm, notice what you can keep, notice what you might not need to do right now, notice what you can put off. And the other thing is, like, planning. I talk about this like I'm some sort of, planning diva. But the truth of the matter is, although, I do have to do a certain amount of planning, I'm sure I don't plan as much as, many of you who are project managers, or, it's not my natural place to fall. But what I have found is that by making a plan, that is having a place that I'm going to, it means that the steps to get me there become much clearer. It means that the steps to get me there that are necessary become clear, and the things that I'm doing that just keep me busy or are nice to haves don't. And I just want to say a great shout out to Alison, who's waved. Hey! So let me go back and just answer Faye's question, and I see that Ivana's put a comment there as well. Overwhelming, protecting your best interest also. Where do you compromise and where do you stand firm? So obviously, without knowing the detail, Faye, and this is a brilliant conversation to continue within the Vibes Tribe as well. Protecting our best interests. It's worth looking at the best interest that we are protecting, having a look at, like, what is it we're protecting, because the very act of protection in itself is an action that can actually also add to the overwhelm. If I'm kind of just sitting and looking around, I'm sitting and looking around. But if I'm sitting and protecting something, someone, or multiple people, they will all take mental brain space, mental actions, and that will also add to a feeling of overwhelm. So worth asking yourself an internal question, Faye, and just making a note of it, is what is it that you are protecting in terms of your best interests. So let's say, for example, you've been offered something, you know, to do something or to work somewhere or something like that. I'm just going to make this up, but imagine that you're offered to work somewhere and you need to kind of weigh up the pros and cons and all of that kind of stuff. If you're coming from a place of protecting your best interest, what I would say is how I would look at this, and this is just subjective, is I would have a look at, well, if I feel that there's something to protect here, is this something that I want to go into? It could be, yes, I want to go into it, and something comes up. Whatever that thing is you're protecting is going to take a lot of brain space. You're now going to be wondering, is this good to go? Should I do it? What do I have to watch out for? All of that takes up mental energy, and that might be one of the things that contributes to a feeling of overwhelm. So I hope I've made that into a clearer point of explanation for other people that are watching this live or on the replay. And then where do you compromise and where do you stand firm? My rule of thumb is, and this is a good exercise for all of you, think about the word compromise and think about a time when you've had to compromise. How does that feel in your gut? Like, how does it feel? Does it feel brilliant? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being pretty rubbish and 10 being amazing, say the word to yourself, compromise. Think of a time when you've had to compromise on something. How does it feel? You see, my bet is that when we are compromising on something, it doesn't actually feel that great. And I suspect that many of you doing that exercise, just as a kind of a quick game, if you like, is that it will feel like a 5 or below. So here's the thing. This is your body telling you something doesn't feel great. Again, sometimes we go into overwhelm because we try and bypass that. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't mean it's something to not do. It just means to pay attention, to take notice of what it is about the situation or the scenario that doesn't feel great, and make the decision from there. So if you're compromising and you feel like it's personally a 5 or less, then you might want to revisit whether that is a great decision to make at that point. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so just having a look at Ivona's comment, and then I'm going to come on to you, Francelise. We need to take into consideration the unexpected things that may happen out of our control. And again, I'm going to have to, because it's on a see more piece, so let's just have a look. The unexpected things that may happen and are out of our control. Realise now not to squeeze too many business things into a week. This is the other very common thing I see, Ivone, and you're spot on there. You know, like I say, ask any business owner, what are your plans for this week? They'll normally have a to-do list. You know, I took a train journey on, when was it, Friday now, 3.5 hours on the train. And I thought, I'm going to take a slow train because I can sit and work. So the night before, I created a to-do list. And it's funny because, like, the to-do list is just over by my notebook that I can see it in full view. And there's like 9 things to do on there. How on earth do I think I'm going to do 9 things on a train journey? Like 9 quite meaty things. So what I do with my to-do list is, although that started on the train journey, that is my to-do list literally for this week. And I basically won't write another to-do list until those things are done. And if I get to the end of the week and everything's not done, I will continue. But it will give me a focus, only because I know what I'm like. I can write 3 things on a to-do list and I can start to make a dent in them. But then by the end of the day, ask me what I actually did and I can list 10, 15 other things. So it's a bit like if you are doing a house renovation, you need to plan in contingency. You know, if you are expecting to take phone calls, to make journeys, to take the kids to school, to make dinner, to do the housework, to look at your accounts, you know, to connect with people, to network, you need to make a contingency plan so that you allow spaces of time for that. And, you know, a very wise woman many years ago told me that when she manages her calendar, she always puts in white space. And in that white space, it means that it is white space, not space for just in case something happens. Literally, she keeps that clean so that when someone says, oh, I really need to speak to you urgently today, you can genuinely say, you know what, my calendar is full. I'm back to back. I can speak to you tomorrow or on Thursday. I have some time on Friday, and you can genuinely manage your own time and manage your own energy thus managing any kind of overwhelming situations. So great point there, Ivona. I love that. France Lee says, I'm going to have a look and see if it's on here. I had burnout when I was a student. The end of my first year in osteopathy, I had no idea what's going on. And this is the thing, this is the kind of the scary part of overwhelm, is that we can sometimes head into overwhelm without even noticing. We put it down to, we're not prioritising, or we're procrastinating, or we put it down to too much to do, not enough time, without noticing that we're doing it. And there is a biological difference between men and women. I'm not going to kind of go into the full details here, but women aren't made to push through stuff in the same way that men can, but men aren't made to push through stuff. And, you know, as a woman, if you push through, you raise your cortisol levels, and actually it has really damaging consequences to your health. Too much cortisol running around your body can lead to some nasty health conditions. And I'm not talking about just colds and flus, which are often times for us, you know, our body's showing us you're doing too much, there's too much on, you need to slow down, or you need to take a break. Not only do a lot of people ignore those initial symptoms or signs, they go on and keep pushing through. And, you know, speak to somebody who's sort of trained medically about too much cortisol running around your body, what that can do for a woman. You know, and I remember speaking to a guy many years ago who unfortunately had a stroke before he realised that he was contributing his lifestyle as a very senior exec in a very like massive global brand. He had inadvertently contributed to his own health because of this pushing. So it's something to take seriously, especially for those of you that look after others. A, because you want to be around to look after others, and B, because you don't want to teach those other people that you're looking after, whether it's your children or close relatives, that it's okay to push yourself to that limit. It's not a great thing to do. So another good reason to have a look there. France Lee says, for me, it manifested by not being able to attend lectures. I couldn't stand people around me, weight loss. I can kind of resonate with that because I remember having glandular fever when I was in my 20s, and it took me down. You know, I carried on, I still went to work, I had 3 jobs, you know, I still went to work and I had the 3 jobs and I still went out with my friends, and I just got more and more tired, and I thought, the more tired I am, just get a bit more active, Jenny, and you'll be okay. And I remember my 3rd visit to the doctor, and this was like going back a few decades, and my 3rd visit to the doctor, and the doctor said, I'm going to sign you off work, and if you won't listen to me, then I will sign you off as my patient. This is your 3rd visit. You know, nothing's getting better. This was in the September, and I remember going back to work in the February. So the run up to Christmas and New Year, I struggled to do Christmas shopping. Really resonate with what you said there, France Lees, because I remember my sister taking me and coming to pick me up to take me out to do a bit of Christmas shopping. And we just needed to go and pick up some food. And I remember this feeling of standing in the front of the supermarket, looking around at the gazillion people that were there in front of me. And it was like as close to a panic attack, I think, as I can imagine, you know. It was really overwhelming to my senses, the people, the noise, the atmosphere. And I just said, I can't stay here, I need to go home, you know. So I don't want you guys in return of running a business to be putting yourself in that, you know, the situation that France Lees talks about of burnout, or the situation where you just burn out and you're no good to anybody around you. It's not what you should strive for. So what else? So that's when you went to see an osteopath that did wonders for you. So there you go. Like, you know, seriously, if you think that you are heading to this kind of burnout phase or overwhelm phase, there are some really key things to do, and let me at least give you those. And I love the comments that are coming up here. So here are some things that you should definitely do. Recognise that you are stuffing into your day. Recognise that you only have a certain amount of time. And I recommend this to a lot of my clients I work personally with. And I think because it sounds like a really simple thing to do, that often it isn't taken as seriously. but literally print out a calendar of your month or even of your week and draw lines through the times when you're doing things, spending time with family, for example, taking the kids to school, for example. It could be that you are, you've blocked out a couple of hours to do some work on something. It could be that you want to block out that white space. And the reason that I get people to do that is because if you carry it around in your head or even on an electronic device like a phone, you don't see in front of you what time you actually have. This makes a difference to whether you've got half an hour to do something or 2 or 3 hours of time to do something. Once you can see that time, it means that you can really plan your to-do list in a way that's sensible, realistic, reliable. So if you've only got half an hour, you know not to plan to get your website finished because you're not going to have enough time. So really important thing to be able to do is to be able to see the time that you have. And then the next thing is to work with the time that you've got. So have a look at, essentially, if you are running your own business, the thing that you're going to need to do first is anything that's income generating, anything that is like a marketing that lets people know about what you're doing, how you're doing it, where and when. So, for example, it's the reason why in the Vibes Tribe group, I have themes for most days, not every day, but I have themes for most days. And I keep those themes consistent so that when you're creating something, for example, for your Sunday share, I would suggest create 3 things for your Sunday share. And then you have created that in that space of time. You can rotate it. You can offer the same thing, and you've got it done. You've got that batch of time. You've created not just one thing, you've created one thing that you can use 3 times. Where else can you use that Sunday share? It doesn't just have to be in the group. It could be out on social media. It could be to your email list. It could be when you go to networking. So don't feel that you have to keep recreating and reinventing at every given step or every given time. So that's a really important thing of using your time, and that's the true meaning of repurposing what you create. So if you have already created stuff, which I'm sure you have, go back, have a look. Don't have a block of 4 hours of creating content when you've got like loads of content sat on your computer. Look at how you can use that again. Look at who new you can share it with. That is visibility generating activity, which will then come into income generating activity because you're letting people know. The other thing that I just want to kind of end with saying is, too many of us try to do stuff by ourselves. Like, including these Facebook Lives. I've been streaming these Facebook Lives for well over 2.5 years, specifically on Monday Motivation. And each week, the reason that I ask you to share it with other people is because people do so much stuff in isolation. You don't know who of your Facebook friends is suffering with overwhelm. They might not even have their own business. They might be, working within a corporation, of which some of the clients I coach are. They've got a lot of responsibilities. They don't have a lot of time. And they don't always have the autonomy to be able to make the choice to do something or not do something. You never know who's struggling, and a lot of the time we only get to know when someone's struggling when they finally almost like have a cry out for help and say, I can't do this anymore. By which time, think of all the time up until that moment that they have kind of suffered in silence. And this is something that I really want to stop. So this is one of the reasons, or quite simply, that I encourage people watching this, whether this is live or on the replay, to share this, because you never know who you could literally talk off a ledge because they hear some of the messages, some of the shares that you share in there, not just about the information I share, but some of the things that you talk about too. It's so, so important. And to me, it's really important. It's the reason why I do what I do. So I'm just going to make sure and just kind of like read anything that's coming up. So please do share this. And if you don't want to share it on your timeline, I understand that. Share this as a private message to 3 friends who you think might or may or may not need it, and say to them, I don't know whether this is something that affects you or not, but I thought I'd share it anyway. So Francis is saying, a big wave for my son who's finally waking up. Hello, Francis's son. So Frances can tell you all about the men and women not made the same biologically, and it's a sensitive subject to talk about because people don't like talking or opening up the gender conversation. Yes, I know that there are gender neutral people and stuff out there. However, whoever you are, however you are, you can still go dangerously headlong into overwhelm. So this is something that I don't want you to do. So that being said, what I would ask you to do, and I'm going to end by reading the comments, is share this privately, maybe with 3 people that you can think of that might need this. The next thing that I'm going to ask you to do is, underneath here, have a look at your to-do list and just confirm, in a way, by way of like public accountability, not just for yourself, but to other people. Look at your to-do list, and is there anything that absolutely does not have to be done today? Is there something that doesn't have to be done this week? Is there something that you can maybe push back, maybe reset the date? You know, there is no shame in that game, because what will happen is it will give you more time to focus. And if you're trying to focus on numerous things, that's another way in which you could be heading headlong into overwhelm. Pick your one area of focus, even if you're running your own business. Pick that one area of focus and go for it. So, for example, if you've written a book, you've got an online program and you want to speak, for example, these are all things that I hear people say. They think the best way to show their commitment is to get into action and try and do all 3. Actually, pick the one that's going to make the biggest difference to you. Focus on that first. You can put far more energy into one thing, have far more effect into one thing, than trying to spread yourself thinly over 3, 4, 5 different projects at the same time. Get some help from like a VA. Get some help if you've got a child who likes being on social media that can help you. Get some help from there. And also get some help from community. Again, the reason why the Vibes Tribe was born, so that you've got other people with like mind. You can pop in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from anywhere in the world, and get support on that too. Anyway, speaking of time, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but at the same time, I don't want to ignore some of the comments that came in. So Ivona said, this has been helpful. I will revisit. I will be revisiting what I've put down in my diary for this week. Thank you, Jenny. You're welcome, Ivona. You're welcome. This is an important life to share for sure. It totally is. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be ashamed. Often it's less of a big thing than you think. Yeah, I understand that. And again, this is something that I come across. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for a break. And don't be afraid to, I would phrase it differently, rather than don't be afraid to, because the brain doesn't hear the not bit. It says do be afraid. What would be better than being afraid to ask for help? So the word will be different to each and every one of you. Whatever that thing is, what would be better than feeling afraid? Feeling confident, it could be feeling able to, just feeling happy to. Whatever that thing is for you, look at how you can do that. So one of the ways, as I say, which I've created help for any of you that watch this, whether you're self-employed or not, is the Visibility Vibes Tribe group. And the way that I've done that, and the reason that I've done that, is because only those of you in the group can see what's being posted. So your friends, family, Facebook friends won't be able to see what you're posting in that group unless they're in the group too, in which case they're likely to want to help out. So, do keep the lines of communication open. I say this every week, go in there at some point today and share something that you're going to do differently as a result of watching this. It's so important to you, it's important to me, and it'll be important that you can support each other in there. Today for me is a day of coaching. I have coaching calls, I have training calls going all the way through the day. So if I'm a little bit quiet or take a few hours to come back to you, please know that I am with you, but I'm also having to serve my clients. So let me know what you're going to take off your to-do list, or how many things you're going to take off your to-do list as a result of this, and keep the conversation going in the Vibes Tribe. Thank you so much for sharing this with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.